Good afternoon, everyone. It is 1 o'clock Eastern Time on this fabulous Thursday. This is Andrew Freedman with Shift. I appreciate you all joining me today for this webinar. It's one of the things that is probably not only most exciting, but also really timely. The conversation today is going to be around how you can create awe-inspiring, absolutely sizzling killer meetings. And the title is, you see, 6 musts for executing an awe-inspiring meeting. That's the conversation today, and I couldn't be more excited for what we've got in front of us. Away we go. In the next hour, here's what you're going to learn. You're going to learn preparation tactics so you can boost productivity, not only for yourself, but also for your team and the broader organization. You're actually going to get tools to spark intrigue and excitement around meetings. Let's face it, for many of you, and we're going to go through some data in a moment, most people, including those leading meetings, just don't look forward to them. And it doesn't have to be that way. Third, how to create a shared experience. So it's not a one-directional conversation in your meetings. The person who is leading the meeting isn't dominating. It's a shared experience. You're going to learn psychology-based tactics to up the energy and keep attendees engaged, not just at the kickoff, but throughout the entirety of the meeting and after the meeting is over. And lastly, how you can embed powerful follow-up processes to extend the learning and the impact. You know, this is one of the biggest things that we see is a critical component of success for meetings, is making it more than just the container that is the meeting. Here's what you're going to get in and after this webinar. You're going to get portable tools and tips you can apply immediately. Today's session is about practical reality. You're going to get things you can use right now in your next meeting. Plus, you're going to get access to 3 resources that can help you extend the impact well beyond the meeting. That's all of what we've got. Let's dig in. In order to talk about how to have awe-inspiring killer meetings, we first need to get grounded in what's going on in the world today and how does that connect to meetings. So the state of the workforce. You know, the unemployment rate, and it's been a little up and a little down in comparison to this, but it's around 3.9%. It's really, really low. But the current job openings nationally, 6.7 million. So you've got not a lot of unemployment, and you've got a lot of job opportunities. What does this mean to you? What this means to you is you really got to make sure that everything you do as a leader and as an organization is creating this workplace and this workforce that is highly engaged, totally switched on, and really about high performance, because the opportunities are out there. And if you aren't at your best virtually every day as an organization, you're creating space for doubt, fear, or uncertainty around, is this really the right place for me? And meetings is one of those key points. You can see in August of 2018, 201,000 jobs were created, yet the national unemployment rate still remained really low. What else is going on? The quit rate, 2.4%, highest in 17 years. This means people are, as the statistic says, they're leaving. They're flocking in some cases. They are looking for opportunities. In fact, a recent statistic that we saw said over 70%, I think the number is 71, over 70% of people are actively or passively looking for another opportunity. So all it takes, folks, all it takes is one bad day, maybe one bad meeting, maybe one bad interaction, one bad one-on-one, one bad performance review. And when that next LinkedIn email comes in, or the next recruiter call, or the next spam email that says, hey, we've got this opportunity, and you might have some of your really good people who say, you know what, I might listen to this. I might take that email request. I might have that call with the recruiter. Don't leave yourself vulnerable. Meetings can be one way to help with that. Here's the state of the state as it relates to meetings. You can see a ton of data on here. What's the point? The point is most meetings are unproductive, and in fact, they're a waste of money. You can see over to the left, more than $37 billion spent on unproductive meetings. And there's more than 25 million meetings per day in the US. That's a lot of meetings. You can see some of the deeper clicks of data. Middle managers reporting spending 35% of their time in meetings. Upper management, 50% or more. People are spending 4 hours a week in preparation for meetings. So, gosh, we've got all this time being spent on meetings, all this money being spent on meetings. And if you look over to the right, you see In fact, most executives consider more than 67% of their meetings to be failures. They're unproductive. So you've got participants feeling like the meetings are a waste of time, and you've got executives and leaders who are feeling like they're a waste of time. Like, gosh, there's got to be a better way. All of these things contribute to this national statistic that hasn't changed in over 17 years, which is we've got a massive engagement crisis. Over 70% of workers in this country are disengaged when they go to work every day. Meetings are a portion of that. We're going to help you get better today. Also, why this conversation around meetings is so important is we can't just be thinking about the current state. We've also got to be thinking about the future of work, because, folks, the future is actually now. 40% of the workforce is going to be freelancers, temps, and independent contractors, along with solopreneurs, just in the next couple of years. In fact, if you think about 2020, we're really only talking about 1 year away. And this really can change the dynamic of your meetings, because now you've got folks who are not W-2 full-time dedicated employees to your cause, to your company, to your mission, to your vision, but they're still going to be so important in how your organization performs. And so beginning to crack the code here is a big, big deal. Just take a minute and soak in this "Can you relate" slide. These are things that we hear every day in clients that we serve. This is what people typically feel about most meetings. Why your meetings suck go like this. 47% of people feel like there's a time suck. There's annoying behavior in meetings. Annoying behavior meaning things like people are multitasking. You've got one person that's dominating the conversation. You've got unclear agenda or no agenda at all, or no follow-up from the last meeting. And so we keep meeting about the same things. Right? Bad meeting management. We're not watching the clock. We start late. We run long. We don't get to everything that we were supposed to get to in the agenda. They're run poorly. And people walk out and they say things like, there's an hour I will never get back. Or there's a day I will never get back. Right? The one thing that people are really starved for today is time. We're all out of time. And the reality is, it's not that we're out of time. We're out of energy. We're out of energy because the energy is being sucked from us by things like unproductive meetings. People also report that meetings break up their flow and result in multitasking. So people are coming to meetings, they're being compliant, not committed, they're not engaged. And when they show up in these meetings, they're using it as time to get other stuff done. So they're on their computer, they're working on a presentation, they're sending out an email, they're working on a project plan. These things are happening so you don't get the best of people in the meetings. And in fact, people will say they're just having too many meetings, which equals wasted time. 31 hours, based on some statistics, per month are lost because of bad meetings. And oftentimes these meetings are just repeating the same thing that we've covered last time, because the meetings are run poorly, they're not managed well, and people are multitasking. You can see this is a cycle of failure. Let's now talk about how we can be better. And we can. You can. This is a big part of what we do at Shift, is help our clients think about and take action on how they can engage their population better to elevate performance in a consistent fashion. And meetings is one big portion of that. We help our clients put on some of the most amazing meetings, offsites, strategy sessions, run sales meetings, run operationally oriented meetings. Just how do you make these things sizzle? It starts with this notion, which is energy follows intention. One of my colleagues, Liz, who operates out of our Boston office, this is a quote that she shared with us recently, and I love it. And it's so true in everything that we do, and specifically around meetings. So what do we mean by that? Energy follows intention. If you are leading a meeting, it first starts with getting your head right. How you think about meetings. What is your perspective? So in this graphic, what you see here is something that's so powerful that is one of the portable things you can apply immediately, which is just take a little inventory for yourself, your belief structure around meetings. So what I'd love you to do, this is, you're not going to share this with anybody else on the call necessarily on this webinar, but just grab a piece of paper and a pen if you have one handy, or get one handy, and just jot down meetings are, and then sketch out a number of words that that are beliefs for you around how you view meetings. Example, meetings are fun. Meetings are interactive. Meetings are a waste of time. Meetings are a time suck. Meetings are unnecessary. Meetings are powerful. Whatever meetings are to you, just jot them out. And what you're sketching out are your beliefs around meetings. Understand how you as a leader can also shift your perspective, which is the beliefs that we have or the worldviews that we have really stem from one of two places: previous experiences or future choices. As an example, if you have a belief structure that meetings are unproductive, that probably comes from one or more previous experiences that you've had around meetings that were unproductive. Leader didn't lead it effectively, all the things that we talked about earlier. Or maybe you were the leader and you just don't feel like you're really good at leading meetings. You're not, maybe you think, charismatic, and gosh, good meeting leaders need to be charismatic. Or, you're not really well versed on the subject, or you're not prepared, or you don't have time to plan appropriately. And so as a leader, you might have a belief that you're not really effective at running meetings based on previous experiences. But there is another option, and that is future choices. So those of you on the webinar who have kids, you will relate to this. Those of you that don't have kids, but are a kid, have parents or had parents at some point, which I think those two choices probably cover everybody on this webinar. When your parents or when you had your first child, you had or your parents had no past experience that you could be a good parent. None. There was no data that would suggest that you could. But you made a future-based choice that said, I am now a parent, and I am going to do things that align with being a great parent. Future choice. You start to make decisions around things that would align with being a great parent, such as you probably stopped going out as much at night. Maybe you stopped spending money on certain things that were no longer critical because you needed to dedicate that money towards, a future-based savings plan for your kids for college or whatever it is. The point is, every single person on this webinar can be a really amazing meeting leader if you make the choice that you want to be and you follow the processes that we put in place and the tools that we give you to allow you to do that. So first is get your head right. What is your belief around meetings? What kind of meetings do you want to have? And then align yourself with that behavior. That's the first thing that I will give you today. Second thing you need to know is that we do all have three brains, not one. And you can see we have here a brain in the head, a brain in the heart, and a brain in the gut. Why does this matter? This matters because if you're really going to engage your population in your meetings, if you're really going to get people switched on and bought in, we need to appeal to the three brains, not the one. We need to make sure that we're tapping into the brain in the head. So really orienting ourselves around priorities, making sure that people are clear on the priorities for the business, what really matters to drive the business forward, how we do that. It's also about the brain and the heart, though. This is about the relationship. You can see better us. This is the relationship we have with our people, the people that report up to us, the people that we lead directly. And are you connecting with them in a way that is tapping into their innermost passions? What are they passionate about? About their role, about the company, about our mission? Like, what is it that really inspires them? Who are they and what are they about? This, as you see over to the right, also connects to our ability to empathize with folks. Emotional intelligence, really critical as a leader, and that absolutely applies when we're talking about meetings. Are we really connected to our people, or are we just up there in present mode or talk at mode? We've really got to connect with our folks to show them that we care so that they will care. Because we really, truly, what we get back from people is a reflection of how they experience us. I am who I am because you are who you are. If you show up in a certain way, your people will respond, react, and behave in a certain way. You want to think about that as it relates to your meetings. What are you getting back from your people? And how then can you think about as a leader what that means around how you need to show up differently? And then the third brain in our gut, this is around the experience. This is around purpose, people being purpose-driven. This is around resilience. This is around courage. And it's extremely important that our people who we lead really know how we're feeling about a certain situation. Where are we? What are we concerned about? What are we insecure about? What are we excited about? Why do we believe that, this new product that we launch, or this new sales initiative that we have, or this, lean manufacturing or continuous improvement initiative, why is it going to work? And how are we going to work through it together? Like really be brothers and sisters in arms. Really engaging the three brains as we think about meeting management is a big, big deal in creating meetings that kick butt, let's just say. Now, there's a number of different meetings that we all have during the course of a day, a week, a month. And here are just some of the kinds of meetings. It could be something like really big and robust that we're kicking off. We work with clients all the time that, maybe they've merged companies or they were acquired. And so it's this big cultural immersion, massive, massive kickoff. We work with clients who have kicking off a new product release, a new strategy, a new initiative, a new vision, right? It could really be something big like that. There's also kinds of meetings where, this is just going to be a brainstorming activity. Let's come up with 100 ways in a half an hour that we're going to really, surprise and delight our clients and deliver remarkable experiences. That's an example of that, or how to solve a customer issue. It could be problem solving. We've got this particular issue in our organization. We need to solve it, and this meeting is dedicated towards that. And then you see a number of other kinds of meetings. Understanding what kind of meeting you're going into really helps to set you up for success. This graphic that you see on here, we think of this because there's a number of folks that we really, love, revere, respect, that are thought leaders in in some of the adjacent spaces that we have. Patrick Lencioni is one of my personal favorites and a favorite of others here at Shift. And one of the things that he talks about is oftentimes leaders will have meeting stew, which is what we've got represented here. Meeting stew is when you try to combine every single thing, big picture thinking, brainstorming, strategic problem solving, tactical stuff, reporting on numbers into one meeting. And the reality is people can't operate effectively that way, or very few can. And when we try to combine everything, and we do that sometimes, out of positive intent, which is we're out of time, we're busy, we have an hour, we're going to try to cram everything together. The reality is that's what makes meetings less sticky. That's what makes them more confusing. That's when people begin to tune out. We really got to be focused in our meeting intent. So let's talk a bit about meetings, or what we call gatherings, and how you can begin to orient yourself towards having more effective meetings. First thing is, when you're planning a gathering of any kind, strategic, tactical, it's your weekly sales meetings, it's your one-on-ones with your direct reports or your boss, whatever it is, first thing that you want to think about is why. Why do we need to get together? So as opposed to just saying, we need to do this thing weekly, we need to get these people together monthly, maybe, but let's just talk about why we would need to convene people at all. Then you want to think about what are we covering? So why are we getting together, and what are we going to cover? So we're getting together. The why is because we've got this really big ideation process that we need to go through. Well, what are we going to cover? Well, it's going to be this specific thing that we need to ideate on because we're trying to solve this particular issue. Who should be in the meeting? This, folks, is probably one of the keys, like asterisk this sucker, write it down, star it, circle it, emoji the heck out of it. So often in organizations, there's this FOMO thing. And for those of you not familiar with FOMO, I'm talking about fear of missing out. And what this results in is we invite everybody under, the sun to every meeting because we don't want to possibly leave somebody out, like their feelings might get hurt or they might get upset or there's some political turfiness. And so we just wind up having, especially if they're conference calls are like, in some organizations, we've seen hundreds of people on these invite lists. And so what you get is a little bit of compliance. Maybe people show up, they put their phone on mute, and then they're doing a bunch of other stuff. You're not paying attention, you're not engaged, and then after the meeting, nobody remembers what was covered, no action items are taken, and it's just a waste of time. Only bring the people together for the gathering who need to be in the room to know what was covered, why it was covered, and help advance whatever it is. Go minimalist here, go essentialism. Only the people that are critical for the meeting or the topic in the meeting should be present. When do we need to meet? How often? Is this a recurring thing? Is this, a one-off ad hoc kind of thing? Really think about what is needed to advance the cause that you're trying to drive here. And where? Is this something that, for this kind of gathering, we need to bring people physically together to have some shared space? Is this one where technology is appropriate? Should we do this off-site? Should we do this on-site? All of these decisions really make a big difference in how your meetings will sizzle. And always, always, always connect any meeting that you have back to the vision, the goals, and the key strategies of the organization. It's not necessarily like the Pledge of Allegiance, but I can tell you that when meetings start with, let's remember why we're doing this and how this thing links to the key goals, strategies, and the vision of our team, our department, our business unit, our organization, boy, it really helps to ground people. I can't tell you how many times when we engage with organizations and we survey and we interview their people, they say they're not really sure where the company is going. They don't see a connection between what they do and where the organization is going. They begin to lose purpose. And so then they begin to become one of those 70%ers. They're sleepwalking when they're coming to work. Meetings are a critical opportunity for you to really fuse connection amongst teammates, but also between the individuals and the organization. In your meetings, you want to create a space where attendees, at least these three things exist. They've got a stake in the outcome. Right? They're vested in this. It matters to them. Where they take ownership in the path forward. So this isn't about one person running the meeting who then takes all of the action items, if any action items are even assigned, and drives it forward as a one-man or one-woman show. This is, we really want to get people involved in a way where they are creating the path forward and they own it more. It's not just about knowing stuff. We need our people to take ownership of whatever the thing is, the new sales initiative, the continuous improvement effort that we have, whatever it is, the product launch, and where also people feel valued. So we always want to make sure in any interaction we have, especially meetings, that people understand what we value in them and also what we need to see more of or differently from them. And meetings can be a great space for that. When you think about meetings, we want you to think about them as a system. And there's a number of operational and organizational systems that we have here at Shift. One of them is this system of management. And we want to make sure that we've got really clear systems and structures around meetings that do what we say here. They foster confidence, flow, innovation, and efficiency. These will be things that you might want to think about as desired outcomes from your meetings. And a way for you to get some feedback back around, are your meetings in fact doing this? Here's one way that you can organize it. From a structural standpoint, we talked about gatherings. These are examples of gatherings. Now, some of them you can see they're based in time, quarterly, monthly, weekly, bi-weekly, those kinds of things. But that is really to be based on why are we getting together? Let's not get together for one-on-ones if we don't have a really good purpose of why one-on-ones matter. If people are just getting together to report the news, we don't need to take up time in a meeting for that. There's other ways that we can share information. So the structure could be something like this. These are common meeting types and frequencies. Then you want to think about your approach, which we're going to step through each one of these in a moment. These are all of the elements that you want to consider and you want to plan for and execute when creating a truly a killer, remarkable meeting. And you also want to consider, back to what we talked about just a moment ago, are we discussing things? Are we brainstorming? And are we reviewing critical path topics in a way that really inspires people? And why are we inspiring them? Because we want everybody to live into this possibility where they can be more, where they can do more, and where they can give more. And the reality of the situation, we have not met any, and I can say any, I don't say any often, but we have not met any highly engaged team members in any organization that we've ever done any kind of consulting program or services with, where the people don't say that they can be more, where they don't say that they can do more, and where they don't say they can give more. Now, remember, I said where we're talking with the engaged folks who aren't engaged, who aren't bought in, who aren't passionate, who aren't connected, they may not say that they can give anymore. And that, in fact, doesn't mean they can't, it means they won't. We're talking about creating an environment where you've got highly engaged people, and I will tell you, fact, from doing this for a number of years across hundreds and hundreds of companies, every person that we've met who's highly engaged in an organization, they know and they say they can be more, do more, and give more. You want to use your meetings as a way to allow people to step in to that space. When you think more broadly about the meetings, you can think about, now, how do you systematize this? Well, one way is by developing what we call rituals, rhythms, and routines. And an example of this from a rhythm and a routine standpoint would be if you've got, one-on-ones or, team meetings, whatever it is, every week, you could say week 1 focuses on this. Week 2 focuses on this. This goes back to the meeting stew concept. One way to avoid meeting stew is to make sure that you've got a rhythm of, at the first week of every month, we're focusing on these kinds of things so that people can get prepared. They can get their head right. You can get your head right. You can prepare appropriately. We can really make sure that we're digging in to the critical things that are going to drive engagement and drive performance in the way that aligns with your key goals, your key strategies, and ultimately your organizational vision. You can build your own rhythms, your own rituals, and your own routines. An example of rituals, by the way, might be when you're talking about the week 4, a review, preview, key accomplishments and learning. A ritual of that might be you have a certain way that you celebrate big wins. And big wins could be client successes. It could be new business that you bring in. It could be massive failures. That's right. I said celebrate massive failures. How crazy is that? In organizations where meetings are really used well, it's a very safe space, psychologically, mentally, physically, emotionally, that people can come in and really talk about things that they screwed up royally and what they learned from it and how we're going to get better so that others don't replicate the same kind of failures. But failure can be celebrated, and that could be a ritual, a way that we actually start a meeting where we talk about our successes and our failures. You can do this. From a blueprinting standpoint, we're now going to help you architect really, really productive meetings, more productive than you've ever had. Here are 6 musts. 1, you must think about how to construct a pre-flight plan. How do you do that? Here's your checklist. 1, do the work. Folks, when it comes to meetings, I might say this a few times in this webinar, this could be the most important part of your meetings, is doing the work. The 1-to-1 ratio that we're speaking about here is you want to think about the amount of time that you have allocated for the meeting. And you want to put in at least a 1-to-1 ratio of that amount of preparation time. So if you've got a 1-hour sales meeting, you should spend at least 1 hour preparing for that meeting. If you've got a one-on-one with one of your people that's a half an hour, you should spend at least half an hour preparing for that meeting. This is a 1-hour webinar that we're doing here. We do this all day, every day, teaching people and executing killer meetings. I can tell you that our team and me personally, this is a 1-hour meeting. Spend at least 15 hours preparing for this, at least 15 to 1. Why? Because the desired impact that we have for you is that you learn something that you can immediately use to make your meetings more productive so you can shift engagement. And in fact, that is the purpose of Shift. That is our vision, is to flip that statistic from 70% disengaged to 70% engaged. We wake up every day, inspired to do that. And so, of course, we're going to put in extra time because this needs to be amazingly impactful for you. It needs to be an incredible experience where you walk away and you go, I have got to make this shift in my organization. 15 to 1, because it's worth it. It needs to be worth it. You need to put in the work to make your meetings worth it. Set the purpose and the expectations. So that includes things like, do you have a clear agenda? Are there pre-reads or videos that you want to send out in advance so that people can get a little warmed up? They can get a little excited. Do they need to know logistics? Is there a go-to-meeting link? Is there a Skype link that you're using? Are there directions needed? Is there parking information that's needed? Like, when we teach, and sometimes, I also have taught and teach in local universities here, and I would say from an education standpoint, here is a belief that is portable to this meeting concept. In the classroom, whether it's an online classroom or in the physical space on ground, the work in the classroom should be really hard. I mean, really hard. I teach business strategy. I'm a capstone class in undergrad and MBA for MBA students, and you got to know, some of them are like they're out of gas by the time they get to the last class. But darn it, it's going to be a tough learning experience. They're going to, like blood, sweat, tears. They're going to need to work to do well in my class because they should. That's how they learn. Here's what should be really easy: registering for the class, paying their bills, getting their books, talking to an academic advisor. All those things should be really easy, right? With you, think about that from an education standpoint. For your meetings, you want to make it easy for people to prepare, easy for them to know where to go, easy for them to understand how the meeting will operate. You do that by setting the purpose and the expectations up front. Build enthusiasm. As the meeting is getting closer, you could do this through videos, online chat notes. You see a screenshot here. We use Slack at Shift as an online communication and collaboration vehicle. It's a platform that really helps to accelerate our connection, especially because, we've got folks in multiple cities. We have, office in Boston. We've got a presence outside Philly. We're in Baltimore. We're in DC, Northern Virginia. And so what you see here is a screenshot of a CEO riff. Our CEO, Joe McClinsky, every day does up to a 5-minute riff on things that are on his mind, things that he, believes are really important for us to understand, things that he's hearing or seeing out in the macro environment that are relevant to our world here at Shift, and also what we're doing with clients. But also when we're preparing for a meeting, we might get an extra message. Or when I'm preparing for a meeting with our consulting business, which is what I lead here at Shift, the team might get a video message from me, things I want them thinking about, right? They get to see and feel the emotion that we're bringing behind whatever this effort is. And again, that ranges from your, daily, weekly huddles or meetings to something that's big that might happen annually. And then engage the team in advance. Think about, are there topics that need to be socialized? If you're rolling out a new vision, if you're rolling out a new product, if you're rolling out a new strategy, if you're doing something that's going to, really bring about change or take some creative thinking, like get people warmed up in advance. So when they come to the meeting, they're already thinking about a few things. They're already a couple steps ahead. You're already they're ready to go. They've already done their, 5 or 10 minute warm up on the mental treadmill, and they're ready to contribute right away. It also helps to build ownership. If you ask them a couple questions like, hey, we're going to be covering these things in the meeting. I'm wondering, what do you think is the best way how would you go about, I'm really thinking, I'm wondering, I'm not sure. Ask your people questions. This is part of that preparation. This is part of the preparation. When you are thinking about your pre-flight, you can use these 4 questions to really help guide you. Can't tell you how many times we observe meetings where really there is no end in mind. There really is there are no desired outcomes. People haven't thought through these things. And I got to tell you, it's one of the things that really makes people say that meetings weren't worth it. If you can do this, and I know you can, this will really be a big accelerator for you. Think about these 4 questions. When people leave the meeting, how do you want them feeling? Do you want them feeling energized? Do you want them feeling engaged? Do you want them feeling inspired? Do you want them to feel educated? What do you want them saying? Wow, that was the best meeting I've ever had. Can you imagine if you went into every meeting saying, I want people walking out saying that was the best one yet, and that everyone is going to get better? What might that do to your preparation? What do people need to know, and what do you need them to do after the meeting? This can really help you in the pre-flight set up a powerful meeting. You also want to think about your people. Now, for many of you, you know your people really well. They've been working with you for a while, your direct reports or your project teams or whomever it is that you're leading. We came up with this a number of years ago. What we found was people who would take like Myers-Briggs or Hogan personality typing or DISC even, they're really good and they're insightful, and we use a number of diagnostics here at Shift. But oftentimes people couldn't remember who they were. They're like, I don't know, am I INFJ? Am I an ENTP? I don't know what I am. And even if they did remember the call letters, they didn't really know what that meant. So we came up with this cute, kitschy way just to remember a bit about your people. So think about who on your team or who that will be in the meeting falls into this shark personality type, right? They're motivated by recognition, rewards, comp, and status. You've got whales who really care about the team. They want to make sure that the team is moving forward in a good way, that they're doing something helpful. They like information in order to make decisions. Your dolphins, these are folks who are actually really inspired by fun. And your octopi, and I know I'm giving this to you a little differently than it says on the screen. Your octopi, these are the ones who really care about facts, figures, and data. So just pause for a second before we get to take off. I just quickly ran through those personality types. And if you think about what we've done in the first 34 minutes of this conversation, We had some data. I told you some stories. I gave you some sort of corny jokes or a little bit of humor and levity. And I also talked about how you can connect what you're doing in meetings back to the broader purpose. This is the practical application of what I just took you through. I looked at the webinar registration list. Some of you I know really well, and I appreciate you joining. Some of you I've never met before, but I'm assuming that there's a wide range of folks who likely fit across these dimensions of those sea creatures that I mentioned. So you saw me infuse data for the octopi, a little bit of fun for the dolphins, the helping for the whales. And this is about winning and achieving and performing at high levels for our shark friends. Right? So for everybody that's here, there's something for you in this first bit of the meeting, and there will be as we continue to go forward. You got to keep that in mind. Know your audience and organize your meeting appropriately. All right, we're now going to take off. We're in the meeting. We're getting started. Here are the things. This is your checklist. This is your blueprint. And we have a tool called the map that will really help you get your head right when you actually kick off your meeting. So start with some framing and context. Always start with why. Some of you may be familiar with Simon Sinek's book and his TED Talk that became really famous. Like millions and millions of people have consumed this. We really dig Simon Sinek, and he packaged it in a really good way. We have long been believers in starting with the why. Why are we having this meeting? Why are we having this meeting right now? Why is this important? Why are you excited? These are all important things when you think about the takeoff of a meeting. Don't just necessarily start with the agenda. Hey, we got an agenda. We're going to get into the agenda. Let's go. Let's move. Sometimes that's appropriate, but too often we do that because we're out of time. We're underprepared. We're not thinking about the audience. We're focused just on our agenda. And so we just jam. The meetings happen to people, not for them and not with them. We got to be better than that. How do you do that? Well, you can engage the team by doing a number of these things. First, just practice some emotional intelligence. Recognize where people are when they're coming into the meeting. Is stress really high right now? Is morale really low? Is morale really up? Are we really concerned? Is there uncertainty in the marketplace? Did we just go through a major contraction? Was there a big layoff? Might people be feeling, I don't know. However they're feeling, we've got to bring humanity into our meetings. We've got to bring humanity into the workplace. You can do that by sharing some gratitude. And you can do this by, sharing what you're grateful for in life or about the team or about the moment. You can also go around the room and have people take a minute and just reflect and think about what they're most grateful for right now. Do something that's going to get people in a different state of mind so that they can then be fully engaged. The map you can have, this is a tool that you'll be able to download. You can have people fill out the map, which talks about where are they right now? What do they want to get out of the meeting? Make it personal. PB&J. Not only do I love PB&J sandwiches, but this is an example of something that we did earlier in the year, which PB&J stands for pain, better, and joy. All right, so there are moments where we're experiencing high degrees of pain. There's also moments where we're experiencing high degrees of joy, and there's always an opportunity for us to get better. And it can be a really helpful exercise, depending on the context of the meeting and the situation, for people to explore a little bit. We did this a couple months ago, talking about gosh, what's been the most painful moment for you this year? What's been your biggest moment of joy? And how have you gotten better? I got to tell you, it was game changing in the meeting. It was exactly what people needed in the moment. Exactly what people needed. And then we really engaged. We had a full day boot camp that we did with our consulting business. And that's the way that we started the meeting. We framed it out. We got right into PB&J. And I got to tell you, it set us up for a remarkably productive meeting and day. And our meetings are really productive all the time. This one was off the charts. And exercise some creativity. Get people to move around. Get people to draw. Draw how you're feeling right now. Draw what your biggest win is. Draw what your biggest failure has been. Draw it out. I don't care if your people are great artists, if they were, stick figures. Who cares? It doesn't matter. That's not the point. The point is you want them working in the variety of brains, not just the brain in their head where they're used to reporting on numbers. Get them to feel. Get them to think. Get them to experience. You do this in the takeoff, it totally changes your meeting dynamic. All right, now we're in flight. Step 3, in flight, what are some things you can do? Games. You can gamify the heck out of your meetings. You can have some competitions. You can have people co-lead. So have people who are championing a certain part of the initiative or who have had, a great success story, who can share their success. who, may or may not be, somebody who's often in the limelight in the business, like have them take a little bit front and center, if that makes sense. Give to others. You see over to the right on the top, this is a picture of our team. We were recently, we had our, shift us or shift all staff meeting. Recently, it was at the Ullman Cancer House here in Baltimore. Our man Brock Yetzo was kind enough to bring us in and show us a bit about what they're doing there with and in connection with Johns Hopkins. And it was unbelievable what they've created there as a way to help the families of those who are in cancer treatment really be comfortable and close to their loved ones. That's where we had, and so they shared a little bit about their story. We had, a woman who came in who's in there, has been through some of their programs, who was a cancer survivor, and she shared her story. And then we helped them actually put furniture together as a way to furnish this house, because it's, much of it is relatively new. And so that was like a really transformative moment for our folks to give back to others. Like, it's not always about us. It's not just about like business as usual or business at hand. Find ways to fill people up. Down at the bottom, this was at the Movement Lab, which is a place here in the Baltimore area. And, this is what we did for a good portion of our morning. This was another, shift all day staff session, which we do every quarter. And it was really exploring movement and emotion and how that could, excite, empower, inspire us to be more, do more, and give more. You can do these things to foster connection, right? You want to focus on learning and getting better, and you want to make it relevant. These are all things you want to do while in flight. Next, you got to land the plane. And the landing is as important as the takeoff. Oftentimes people jump, okay, good, yep, we got 2 minutes left. Anybody have anything else? No, good, cool, because we got to run to our next meeting. That's a weak, poor way to end a meeting. Absolutely. How do you do this? Confirm decisions that are made. What did we decide today? Did we actually make decisions? Reflect. What was the most impactful part of this meeting? What happened today that really had resonance with me? Establish owners, if we have, and we should. Next steps, who's owning them? What's the commitment? This is back to the ownership piece, right? Let's disperse the responsibility here. Let's get everybody engaged. There's a role that everybody can play to do more, to be more, do more, and give more. Make sure we've got next steps, and then end on a high note. Gratitude, notes of appreciation, moments where, people can recognize the goodness and the richness in each other. What we appreciate. So let's put that into practice. And we have a tool, a template here called the WRAP that allows people to do this in a really systematic way. This is another portable tool. You can use this immediately in your very next meeting. Step 5 of your 6 musts. Got to follow up. It doesn't end with the meeting. So how do you do that? Well, one way, here's a number of them. You want to confirm the decisions and actions that were made. So sometimes we decide things in meeting, and then, in a meeting, and then there was like loose interpretations. When you talk to the 6 people in the meeting, after the meeting, they have 8 different interpretations of what was decided and who's got what and when it's due. Let's make sure that we send out a really good follow-up. This is a great use of email. This is one of the great uses of email. There are some, not a ton, but one is facts, figures, and follow-up. So you can send out an agenda via email or an invitation, and you can also send out the follow-up to confirm what the decisions were that were made. You can engage the senses from a follow-up standpoint. So as the meeting leader, could you send a personal video, like shoot it on your iPhone, put it on Vimeo? This stuff is so easy. Just take a little bit of time, show some thought, show some care. Put a video together that just says, like, how'd that meeting land for you? What are you really proud about from that meeting? What are you most excited about? Like, infuse them with some energy. Let the champions rise. The people who are supposed to do stuff, keep the responsibility on them. One of the biggest mistakes we see leaders make is, they might delegate stuff, or owners step up to say they're going to do things, and then the leaders wind up doing the things that the owners were supposed to do. Give them space, including when they fall. People are going to screw things up, folks. That is something to be embraced. That's how we learn. That's how we get better. That's how we get faster. That's how we get stronger. You've got to give your people room to fail. The difference is we need to avoid people making the same mistakes and failing in the same way repeatedly. That would show a lack of learning, potentially a lack of ability, a lack of proficiency. I don't know, but you can explore those things when they happen, but you've got to give people safe space to fail. Don't take it over for them if they miss a step. Let's adhere to deadlines and commitments. People are busy. We get it. There's no pride in that. There's no tattoos. There's no badges. Nobody's getting a t-shirt because they're the busiest person on the planet. In fact, that is an unhealthy way to run. Got to give yourself some space, and let's honor our commitments. So here's what's not okay. Meeting number 1, I commit to something. Meeting number 2 shows up. We come back and we report out, and I go, oh, I wasn't able to get to it. I got so busy. There were 7 fires and all kinds of stuff. Not okay. Not okay. As a responsible party, if I am having a tough time living into my commitment, I know it before the next meeting is happening. I know it, 2 days before the meeting. I know. So as a responsible person, we've got to build this into the framework and the culture of performance and accountability, which is live into your commitments. And if you're going to miss a commitment, raise it up early, reset the terms, timeline, and conditions. That's okay if we get ahead of it. Now, if we repeatedly do that, now we got a bigger issue, right? But as it relates to meeting construction, put these systems, structures, and processes into place, and you will find that your people thrive and succeed way more than they fail. Have a killer ground game. What do I mean by that? I mean, in between the meetings, check in with people. Go sit with them. Ask them how they're doing. Look to see their progress. Your role as leader is to support, empower, engage, equip. Go back. It's not micromanaging. You're checking to support them. You're excited about the progress they're making. You're excited about the failures that they have. You want to learn. You want to support. That's how they grow. And let's make sure that we celebrate both successes and failures. And you can do that through videos, email notification, chat features, whatever you have. Make sure that you are doing that. Celebrate when we're winning, when we're living into our commitments, and also celebrate failures. Hey, guess what? We screwed this one up. Here's what happened, and here's what we learned. And there is an artifact that we'll give you that is a way to do that. It's called an after-action review. That is step 5. Step 6, got to extend the moment. How do we do that? Connect the dots. Make it personal, right? How is the progress that we're making, how is it striking you? How is it resonating with you? How is it affecting you? How proud are you? How concerned are you? Whatever it is, let them know, and also make it personal to them. Like the things that we're talking about in the meetings, why does this matter to them? This gets back to empathy. This gets back to the brain and the heart. This gets back to connection. This gets back to knowing your people. You can see as a leader of teams, as a leader of individuals, as a leader of organizations, a significant amount of your time needs to be spent knowing your people, engaging your people, driving performance through and with your people. Your role as leader, the greatest value you have is not through individual contribution. That was the case when you were an individual contributor. Now, as a leader of people, leading meetings, your greatest gift, your greatest contribution is through others. You've got to use meetings as a lever to do that. Pair up. Accountability works. So accountability partners, you can have people pick them, and that is somebody, as it sounds like, who's going to help to keep me on point. So if I made a commitment, if I'm leading an initiative, if I'm leading a team, I could have an accountability partner. If I set, big, bold, audacious goals for 2019, this is something we do at Shift and with many of our clients. We pick accountability partners in our organization, not in direct reporting line. This could be anybody in the organization. But the key here is it's somebody that's not going to let me get away with my crap. And you know what I mean by that. I've got a bunch of stories. I got a bunch of excuses, bunch of reasons why I can't get stuff done. You need somebody as an accountability partner who's going to not accept that, not tolerate that, not let you get away with that. Share pictures, videos, and stories. Extend the moment. Heck, we put some pictures in here from things we did months ago at Shift. I got to tell you, I know that some of my fellow shifters are participating in this webinar by, watching and consuming this stuff. And I know that for some of them, when they saw their pictures on here at the Ullman, house or at the Movement Lab, they were like, wow, that was so cool. I remember that moment. It took us right back to that place and that time where we were all together, where we were one, where we were learning, we were growing, we were struggling, we were thriving. That's a big deal. It's so easy to do that. Model the way. Live into your commitments. Share your successes. Share your failures. Share what you're learning, right? It starts with you because they're all watching you. You're on stage all the time, folks. That's part of the gig of being a leader. So are you modeling the way? And reference moments when. Make these rituals like we talked about before. Make these artifacts for the organization. When decisions were made, in some organizations, they'll say, we never make any decisions, or we make a decision, then we change our mind. There's also plenty of times when you do make decisions, when you do move things forward. It's really easy for some folks to focus on, like, in performance reviews, you give somebody 10 things that they're doing amazingly and one thing where, you need to see more value in a specific way. And oftentimes people will focus on that one thing, like, man, I'm not doing well, I'm beating myself up. Let's remind ourselves when we did actually make decisions, when we did actually confirm a new way, when we did say no to something in a really productive way, when we didn't just take on the next new thing, but we practiced more discipline, more rigor, right? When a new catchphrase was born, new language in the organization. And let's make sure that we're learning always learning. Every moment, every meeting, everything we do is an opportunity to learn. It is an opportunity to learn and get better. There are a couple tools that we'll recommend here that can help you along your way. There's a bunch of other ones, and we can engage with you outside of this webinar to share some others, but two that we really dig. One is this platform called 15.5. It's used in a number of ways, but the simplest way that I'll put it, because, we do, again, want to honor the space that we have here, is it's about engaging your people. It's about never being more than a week away from where they are with their priorities, their goals, how they're feeling, how connected we are with them. And as it relates to meetings, you can use this interactive platform as a way to get feedback, right? Feedback on where your people are on the things they own from the meeting. Feedback on how they're feeling about how that meeting went. Feedback on, what are a couple things that they think we can do to infuse even more, even better in our meetings, right? These are absolutely things that you can do. Love us some 15.5. And the collaborative resources, I mentioned Slack earlier. There's other versions of different collaboration spaces. So Asana, Skype for Business, Microsoft Teams. These are all ways, like, you got to research and implement resources that align with your business goals, your strategies, your situation, the context of your business. But the reality is, coming out of meetings, you could use one of these shared workspaces to set up communities of practice, for people who are working in a same or similar role and seeking to get better, or communities of interest for people who have taken on, certain initiatives in your organization as a way for them to communicate theirs, get it out of email, right? Especially if you've got geographically disparate workforces, which many of you we know do. And we're going to close with this quote. I dig it. I absolutely dig it. I don't know that you do or don't read French, but we put this up here intentionally in French, not to throw you for a loop, but because you'd at least stop and go, what the heck does that say? So you may not be familiar with it as it reads here, but the literal translation is, I only made this letter longer because I did not have the leisure to make it shorter. Blaise Pascal is one of the first people, actually the first, that this was attributed to. There's a number of other folks like Mark Twain, as an example, who people attribute this quote to, and it's often said as something like this: if I had more time, I'd have written a shorter letter. And the takeaway here for you as you think about your meetings, back to the meeting stew, is you want to think about what is absolutely critical in this meeting. And you can't know the answer to that unless you think about the why, what's the purpose. And if you think about the who needs to be in there, and you think about the what you really need to get accomplished, and you think about the when and the where, like, these are the things that really help your meetings sizzle. So only put in your meetings what is absolutely essential to drive forward the thing or the things that are most essential in the moment. Take the time up front, put in the time to make your meetings pop, to really drive home what you need. You will find that you beat the odds, all of the odds at the beginning, all of those numbers that we talked about. You will be on the other side, absolutely on the other side. Here's a way you can facilitate your best meeting yet with us. And I say yet because every meeting can be better. Ensure your next big meeting goes off without a hitch. You can schedule a call with our team. You can explore how we can help you. This is a big part of what we do, especially when you think about like big strategic meetings. Now is a timely time to do this, because many of you are going to have kickoff sessions, new strategies, new plans for 2019 that are coming up. You can easily schedule time to connect. We had been recording this session, so we will be able to get the recording out to folks. So you've got this as a reminder, and you've got assets. Keep an eye, as we say here, on your inbox, because we will be sending you not only the recording, but also some of the resources and assets. Thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate you investing in yourselves, in your teams, in your organization. You absolutely can make your meetings pop. If there's anything else that we can do to help you, don't wait. Invest the time, do the work. 2019 can absolutely be your best year yet. Thanks, folks. We'll wrap up for today.